Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this event. I'm very happy to have you here. I will forget to introduce myself. My name is Mike Gomez, and I'm the current chair of Hispanic Studies. And this is the second installment of a new series that Hispanic Studies has, which we term the Hispanic Studies Global Perspective Distinguished Lecture Series. And it's done in collaboration, obviously, with the Rose Institute. The first one we had was this past fall. We had the Consul General of Brazil here. And that was a great event, and I'm equally very much looking forward to this one. And we'd like to welcome Dr. Jesús Fernández González, the Education Counselor of the Embassy of Spain in Washington, D.C. Very excited about this talk, Foreign Policy for the Language and Culture, the Power of Soft Diplomacy, which is exactly the kind of thing that the college, the School of Languages, Cultures, and World Affairs, and the Department of Hispanic Studies aims to do, is to give their students this perspective of that wider world that's out there, how they fit into it, and how that world interacts with them. And how being conversant in a language and a culture, it's not ancillary, it's not peripheral, it's intimately connected with anything you may be doing, whether that is medicine or literature or linguistics or foreign policy. So having said those brief words, I want to welcome Dr. Jesús Fernández González and pass the mic to Max Kogolo.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Max Kogolo. I'm the director of the Morose Global Leadership Institute. It's a pleasure to co-sponsor another event with the Department of Hispanic Studies. Thank you, Dr. Gomez, for this partnership. The mission of the Morose Global Leadership Institute is to help our students acquire essential skills of global fluency and prepare them to be future global leaders. We also seek to educate our students about diplomacy, the importance of diplomacy. This lecture series serves as an important element of our programming. And this programming is designed to bring to campus speakers with international experience to stimulate conversations about important global challenges with our students, members of the community, faculty members. And so thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for coming here remotely and in person. I know we have a group of guests who are connecting to us remotely. Dr. Fernandez will give his remarks, and then there will be an opportunity for questions. Our remote audience will be able to use the chat feature and Q&A feature to ask questions. We have a couple of microphones for our face-to-face audience. And with this, I want to give the microphone to one of the global ambassadors. He will introduce tonight's speaker.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Samuel Hall. I'm a global ambassador, and it is my pleasure to welcome tonight's guest, Dr. Jesús Fernández González. He serves as counselor for education at the Embassy of Spain in US and Canada. He previously was the attaché for education in New York. He was the counselor for education in the UK and Ireland. And as an educator, he teaches Spanish as a second language at the University of Salamanca, as well as other North American universities. When researching, he studies the influence of mother tongues on the process of a second language acquisition. And it is my honor to welcome Dr. Fernández to the College of Charleston.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, you can. Great. So first of all, thank you so much to Charleston College for inviting me to come over. This is a great college and a great city. Should have come here before, but better late than never. I would like to thank Amy Arias. I'd like to thank Michael Gomez, Max Ivanov, and all of you here for coming. Some of you for the second time, so you can get tired of me for sure. The thing that has makes me most in this college is how polite the students are. You have such good questions and such motivation and such an interest that it's really overwhelming and touching. We all people are usually pessimistic about the future, but when we look at you, you give us hope for sure. Okay, so let's go with foreign policy through language and culture. The power of soft diplomacy. I have hundreds of slides here, but I've been told that I have half an hour or so, and I have this sort of on clock over here, warning me of the time. You can interrupt me at any time. If you want to ask questions, feel free to do it, even if I'm speaking. I'll run over some slides real quick, but I'll try to do it in half an hour. Okay, so let's get to it. Well, you see the world over there. It's sort of a patch quilt of countries shaped by geography, history, wars, and fate. It's sort of a mosaic of large, middle-sized, and small countries that host 8 billion people and counting. And when you see the countries, there are fascinating things about them. For example, well, some of you already know because I've already told you in the class, but do you know where the name España comes from? You don't? Okay, it's the land of the rabbits. Apparently, when the Romans landed there, they saw lots of rabbits there. They said, okay, let's call this the land of the rabbits for Argentina. Why Argentina is called Argentina? It's silver. That's right. It's the silver land. Or Canada. Well, we take things for granted and never think about why things are the way they are. Well, Canada is settlement in our quest. So we could rank those countries according. Oh, I shouldn't move. Sorry. We could rank countries according to many criteria. For example, military power, according to global firepower. Ranking them this year. Well, the countries in dark blue are the most powerful ones. Of course, the United States, followed by Russia, China, India, South Korea, and so forth. We could rank countries according to economic and sort of global power index, in the scale from 0 to 600, including globalization, geopolitics, transformative technology, and societal change. And then again, dark blue says where the big ones and who aren't. I don't know if you can read that, but the United States is #1 again, China #2, France 3, Singapore, United Kingdom. I don't know where Spain is. Spain is 27. Well, not that bad. To welfare, the Human Development Index. That means how life expectancy, years of schooling, and gross domestic product. Now, the US is not #1. Switzerland is, followed by Norway, Iceland, well, Scandinavia, Hong Kong, Australia. I can't find the US. Oh, there it is, #21. And Spain is #27, so not that bad again. Well, there you see, now it's dark green instead of dark blue. And then we can come to language. Language. How many languages are there? Well, some of you already know, so be quiet, but for the rest, it's 1,000, 7,000, 15,000, 847, 2,500. Well, to test your visual acuity, you have red dots over there. Now you can count the little red dots and tell me how many countries there are. Well, to make a long story short, it's around 7,000 spoken languages in the world, including sign languages, which is quite a lot, but it's less than they're used to be. So in an ideal world, it's 7,000 languages, 200 countries, give or take. 8 billion people, 7,000 languages, so it's 35 languages per country, 1 million speakers per language. But that is, of course, not the case. The first mismatch is linguistic diversity. Now it's dark green, the color of the darker the green, the more languages they speak. You can see there, for example, India, Papua New Guinea, Central Africa, those are regions where many languages are spoken. In this distorted map, you can see it better. For example, Papua New Guinea, they have thousands of languages in that little island. Now, to give you a couple of examples, in Nigeria, which is a bit larger than Texas, with almost 200 million inhabitants. There are 524 languages. But if you go to the neighbor of the south, Cameroon, it's smaller than Texas, 22 million inhabitants. There are 275 languages over there. So it's the possibility of finding a person that speaks different languages is really high over there. So, in spite of what some people think, multilingualism is the norm in the world. It's not at all unusual. We are taught to think somehow that every country has a language, and that is not the case at all. There are many languages practically in every country, and there are countries where there are many languages. Most people, in fact, are multilingual, either because they live in a multilingual context, like Cameroon or Nigeria, or because of migration. And this is in contradiction to this idea of one nation, one language that we live throughout our days. Like here in the US, I'm going to it later. This is the US, we speak English here, and you should speak English and not any other language, which is kind of sad. While migration is a fact in the US and it's a fact for Spain as well, you see over there that, of course, most people speak English, but many people, around 40 million, well, numbers change, of course, 41 million speak Spanish or Spanish speakers. And then you have German, Tagalog, one of the many languages of the Philippines, French, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Chinese, you name it, every possible language. And of course, we shouldn't forget the Native American languages, which are on the verge of extinction, many of them, but are languages of this country, and as such, should be respected. Now, if you have a look at the map of the US, it's really a patched quilt of languages all over the place. Every color represents a language, and there should be many colors. Let's go to New York. If you go to New York, you go to Queens, New York, then you can listen to, they say, and I believe it, at least 500 languages from many migrant communities. So it's really a fascinating world for us linguists to go there and listen to the languages that we never heard before or thought of. Well, that gives a clue for the next question, which is the most diverse city in the US. New York, LA, Washington, DC, Seattle, Phoenix, and Salamanca. There is a city called Salamanca in the state of New York. It's not Salamanca in Spain, but I think it's a small city in New York State. Well, it's New York, but if you see this census of the US Census, it says it's almost 200 languages. That's the census because sometimes people don't say a language they speak. They say I speak English. They don't want to say which their mother tongue is. But I assure you, there's more than 200. So if you walk around, you see dentists, dentistas, and I wish I knew how to pronounce Korean, and then in Korean, so you can have your teeth pulled out in 3 different languages. Or you can have mixtures, like our bubbles are bigger, which work pretty well for commercials, for ads, I've read. But then again, you have a different view. This is an English-speaking zone. Please speak in English always. Or management reserves the right to refuse service. This is America, minority speak English. Or now entering English-only zone. I wonder what the Navajos say about that. I mean, because they were here before, right? Second mismatch is native speakers. If you look at these pyramids, you see that 83 languages account for almost 80% of the population, whereas 3,500 little small languages account or are spoken by just 0.2 of the world population. And then you have the mid-sized ones spoken by 20%. Well, that means is that the big fish eats the small fish and so forth. And unfortunately, that brings a very high extinction rate. Languages are becoming extinct each and every day. If we have now 7,000, next time we meet here in 100 years, there will be probably half of them, which is really sad. If you look at this graph, the top 25 world languages account for half of the population. So this is the way it works. Very big languages and then mid-sized and really small languages that are on the verge of extinction or really extinct. The language with most native speakers is of course Mandarin Chinese, and then you have Spanish, second one, English, and then you see there all the big languages, Japanese, Persian, Italian, Hindi, and so forth. If you see that on a map, you will see that English is quite widespread. It's really a global language spoken in America, in Africa, in Europe as a second foreign language, in Asia, and of course in New Zealand and Australia. Chinese is a big language, but in a small area, just China. Of course, there are many immigrants as well, but it's mostly spoken in mainland China. Spanish spoken, of course, in Spain and Latin America, and then we'll see soon why, and of course in the US. It's the second language in the US. And then you have Hindi or Urdu is different names for the same language. Hindi is the name they use in India, and Urdu is the name they use in Pakistan. They're written with different alphabets, but it's truly the same language. It's only spoken in India, and in fact, most educated Indians speak English as well. Arabic is spoken in the north of Africa, Russian in Russia, and in a way the former USSR republics, although as you see in this graph from the New York Times, the former USSR republics now say niet to, that is, no to Russia, many of them. You can see there which ones, except for Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, most of them have rejected Russian. Portuguese in Portugal, Brazil, and the colonies, the former colonies in Angola and Mozambique, French in France, and well, this is an optimistic map for the French, because apparently it's spoken in all over Canada, and that is not the case, as you know, rather other than Quebec. Well, they learn it as a second language, anyway, and that comes because these are imperial languages. These have been languages that have throughout history conquered the world. As Spain did in the 16th century, as you can see, the Spanish Empire went from Alaska down to the Tierra del Fuego, to Argentina, and to the Philippines, whose name comes from King Philip II. It's funny because that was in 1492 when Colon landed arrived in America, and that was the same year that Spanish grammarian Rita wrote the first grammar of the Roman language. Gramática de la Lengua Española, and he wrote language and empire go together. There is no empire without language, and that has happened with Spanish, with English, with French, with Russian, and so forth. And he said, and through this language, through Spanish and through the grammar, Your Majesty the conquerors can teach the language to these barbaric nations. Barbaric means those who are not able to speak, in this case, Spanish. So that's how it works. Big languages are small at one point. Spanish was very small at one point, and then they expand, conquer the world, and kill, so to speak, the aboriginal languages. The same goes for English. This is a poem written by Samuel Daniels in 1599. And who in time knows me where we may vent the treasure of our tongue, to what strange shores this kind of our best glory shall descend, to enrich and knowing nations with our stores, what worlds in the yet unformed Occident they can refine with that access that are ours. Well, he didn't know at the time that English would become a global language, but as a prophet, he had picture. Well, that's the English Empire in the 19th century. But then, counterpart is that languages are dying. In North and Central America, over 200 are dying, South America, 226, and so forth. There you have a picture, and it's really, because you have the picture of the last speaker. There you have Chief Mary Smith Jones, the last speaker of AIAC, who died in 2008. When a language dies, a culture dies, a way of seeing the world dies, many words, many stories, many songs die, and it's like biodiversity. It's I was telling the students afternoons like whales or frogs or butterflies. I will be one. There you have some examples of languages that are either on the verge of extinction or already dead, and I'm going to call your attention to Yagan, spoken in the south tip of Chile. This is Cristina Calderon, the last speaker of Yagan who died last year. And I bring your attention to this language because they have the most beautiful word. Mabilapinatai. If you don't remember anything about this lecture, no problem. Just remember this beautiful word. That means the word was built between two people who both desire something, yet are equally reluctant to initiate. And I find this gift really enlightening. Shall I speak to him? Shall I speak to her? No? Isn't that a beautiful word? Well, every language has beautiful words. Spanish has beautiful words, German, French, all of them. So there is a ranking of languages, where English is number one, and then according to different linguists, then you have a second. I mean, if English were the sun, then the planets would be Arabic, Russian, Swahili, the language of like the Lion King, Hindi, Malay, Spanish, Portuguese, etc. And then there will be another layer of medium-sized languages, Wolof, spoken in Senegal, Quechua, spoken in Bolivia, Peru, Argentina, Armenian, and so forth. And then thousands of really small languages that have to learn other languages around, and of course the dominant languages. Like for example, in the Amazonian, even in the most remote tribes in the Amazonian, they have to learn Portuguese. They used to be isolated, but unfortunately not anymore. Well, that's the image. And you can have many different ranks, a pyramid according to Ruddle, 7 layers according to MacArthur, English, Chinese, Spanish, and Hindi, and then around. It's up to the linguist. Now, how can we rank different languages? Which criteria would we consider in order to measure the importance of the language? Well, the most common ones are demographics, geography, economy, science and technology, culture, internet, and international organizations. There are many classifications that I resort to this made by Kei Chan in terms of geography, how many countries the language is spoken, what the land area is, how many tourists go to those countries, what the gross domestic product general and per capita is, exports, FX market share, SDR composition, and I'll skip that. In terms of land area, for example, English is spread all over the world, whereas Chinese, as we saw, is just limited to the mainland China. Number of native speakers, number of L2 speakers, for example, I guess every kid in the world learns English as 4 languages, except for kids in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, England, Ireland, and the US. And in Spain, every kid has to learn English. The sad thing about it is that they'll learn English for many years and then they can't say, "Can I have a Coke, please?" Anyway, that's our fault. Linguistic family size, Indo-European families is really huge because it comprises English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, big languages, most of the languages. Knowledge on the media, internet content. I mean, if a Spaniard were to speak German, they would most likely speak in English. Feature films, top 500 universities, academic journals, and in diplomacy, if it's spoken in the Monetary Fund, United Nations, World Bank, and this organization. United Nations, for example, there are 6 official languages, but the fact of the matter is that most people speak English, except when an Argentinian meets a Spaniard, and then, of course, speak Spanish. The other languages have a very limited use. Well, according to Chang, English would rank first, Mandarin second, French third, Spanish fourth. This is debatable, of course, but that's his view. And if we, in his projection for 2050, while Spanish would go up 1 layer, English would still be the first one, Mandarin second, Spanish third. Mandarin has a problem to be a global language in its writing, because in Spanish, English with 20 some letters you can read and write, but in Mandarin you need thousands of signs of characters. So kids in school take years until they master all the characters. Just imagine if we had to do that. So that would be a major problem. Well, this is, I'll skip this, but this is the scores in the different criteria that English, French, Spanish, And Mandarin, I skip Mandarin for some. Okay, I'm faster than. Now let's go to soft power and cultural diplomacy. What's soft power and cultural diplomacy? Well, according to Wikipedia, which is the Oracle, cultural diplomacy, that is the exchange of ideas, information, art, language, and other aspects of culture among nations and their peoples in order to foster mutual understanding. So it's great, isn't it? For me, that is not Wikipedia, that is myself. Cultural diplomacy is the art of making people fall in love with their languages, other cultures, other ways of living and looking at things. If as an education counselor, I have to work some magic on you and convince you that Spain is a great place to go and Spanish is a great language to learn, I will have to make you fall in love with Spanish. I will have to entice you to my language, culture with capital letters, culture with lowercase letter. I'm not an expert on counterculture, but maybe some of you could be enticed by counterculture. Languages a gate to other people's cultures, minds, and ways of perceiving the world. If you learn a foreign language, it's not just words. It's a different, the Germans say with this great word, Weltanschauung, this concept of the world. It's like you try new glasses and you see things in a different way. Like, for example, we Spanish are so direct when we speak. You say, open up, or Mom, make me a sandwich. Whereas in the US, we would be more indirect. You say, you open up the door, please, or Mom, would you be so kind and make me a sandwich? So you have to not just learn the words, but then the culture there is immersed or submersed with all it. And it's a way of acculturating, integrating, and being one of them. If I speak a language, it's a way of saying I'm one of yours. I couldn't do that with AI. If I were speaking in Spanish right now, and my micro would translate the words into English, it sort of creates a barrier between us. It's different if I speak to you directly in your language than if I do it through some artifacts like artificial intelligence. The thing is, and we were discussing that before in class, that the problem is that, well, to learn a language, you need, how did Churchill put it? Blood, sweat, and tears. You need a lot of, many years, any effort, being laughed at, etc. And then if you can buy some glasses for, I don't know, $500, well, it's a tough decision. Nelson Mandela put it also very, very nicely. He said, if you talk to a man, or a woman, or person, in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, her language, that goes to his heart. And I believe that to be absolutely true. Whenever I'm abroad and someone speaks Spanish to me, I feel welcome. And thanks for speaking my language and being so nice to me. That's something that so far, I don't think artificial intelligence, well, they have artificial intelligence, but it's gaining ground. Then you have study abroad. Study abroad is a great way to learn a language and to learn about a culture, especially if you're for a long time in the country, because sometimes people go for a couple of weeks. They believe that they're gonna be bilingual. They have such high expectations, and thinking that just because you're breathing Spanish or subjunctive is going to come from your nostrils, start on the start, going to show up in your brain, and unfortunately that doesn't work that way. It works with little kids, but not with adults. At any rate, it's better 2 weeks or 4 weeks than nothing. So study abroad is something that should be mandatory for everyone. Everyone should spend some time somewhere. For example, that is self-diplomacy at the Plaza Mayor in Salamanca, my hometown, like this to this gentleman and this lady. And I'll just give you a brief example of this program, the North American Language Cultural Assistance Program in Spain, sponsored by the Embassy of Spain and Spanish Ministry of Education, by which American, Irish, and some of the countries' students or graduates can go to Spain, spend a year, and well, let the video.
Fancy living in Spain? Join the Language and Culture Assistance Program of the Education Office at the Spanish Embassy. It offers a fantastic opportunity to spend a school year in Spain as an assistant teacher, sharing your language and knowledge with Spanish students K through 12 and adults.
Con ella aprender inglés es estupendo. Claudia es la mejor.
I got medical insurance and a monthly allowance to help pay for accommodation and expenses. And I really think that this experience will help with my career in the future.
Spain also offers you amazing travel and cultural possibilities.
I couldn't have imagined this was going to be such a life-changing experience. What about
The lively streets. Yo he mejorado mucho mi español.
Don't miss this opportunity. Learn more about the Language and Cultural Assistance Program of the Education Office of the Embassy of Spain.
And gracias to share.
Now, some of you may be thinking, oh, come on, this is a commercial, you've set everything up, you've selected the people, you've put up wonderful CDs and food and everything. Oh, come on, I mean, we know how publicity works, right? Well, something I've learned when you give a talk in the US is that everyone tells a story of a personal story. That's very common in your culture. You start to talk and you say, well, this happened to me when I was a little kid, blah, 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 blah. So I have my personal story for you. Now, I go to LA, so we have an office there, and I'm checking in the hotel. Receptionist is my passport. Receptionist is this guy right there. And he says, oh, Jesús Fernández González, you're from Spain? Oh, okay. And I say, been to Spain? Yeah, of course. I was a language assistant there. And I'm like, say what? You were a language assistant in Spain? Yeah, I was in a little bit in Madrid. And I'm the guy that runs the program in the US, and he couldn't believe it. So I recorded this video. Hola, estamos en Los Ángeles, estamos con Matt, que ha sido auxiliar de conversación en España, en Leganés, en el proyecto Carmen Conde, y nos va a contar un poquito en inglés y un poquito en español cuál ha sido su experiencia como auxiliar de conversación norteamericano en España, como nata.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, my name is Matt. Hello, and I was an auxiliar in Leganés for 2 years. I absolutely loved it. It was 2 of the best years of my life. It was a fantastic opportunity to meet new people, practice a new language, get to know a different part of the world. Antes de irme a España, sabía un poquito de español por clases de universidad, en escuela secundaria, pero no fue hasta que fui a España por la primera vez que tenía la oportunidad de practicarlo en realidad, en la calle, hablar con la gente en un sentido más real que existe en las clases. So if you want an opportunity to get your Spanish down, have a lot of fun, work with some real cool kids, meet some incredible people, please become an auxiliar. Please become a language assistant. I absolutely loved it. I would go back in a second if I could. And you can as well.
Muchísimas gracias. Thanks so much. Thank you. Okay, that wasn't, I mean, I couldn't think I was going to find a language assistant in a hotel in LA. Okay. Well, some of you don't speak Spanish, but some of you do. What's his Spanish like? It's very good, really good. I mean, he speaks better than me, I think. Anyway, I have more videos, but I'd love to listen to your questions. So let's skip the videos. Okay, then you have culture with big letters, architecture, sculpture, painting, literature, including translations, music, movies, series, dance. So now comes the part of subliminal propaganda here. Sagrada Familia, Alhambra, Guggenheim, Santiago de Compostela. You know who he is? Martin Sheen, American actor. He did Camino de Santiago. Yeah, and there's a movie about the way. It's sad at some point, but it's a great movie to see. It was a documentary. Then you can visit Museo del Prado and see your fabulous paintings. La rendición de Breda, la familia de Carlos IV, with this beautiful bodegón by Zurbarán. Trying to wash your brains, you're not realizing that, right? El Guernica, Dali, of course, with this funny pictures. And this is a painting, this is not a picture. This is by Antonio Lopez. He is a painter, I think it's 90 something. It's quite old. This, I mean, I love him. I love this painting. It's just beautiful. He goes early in the morning with his easel here and paints this beautiful view of the Gran Via in Madrid. Of course, literature, Don Quixote de la Mancha, or 100 Years of Solitude, or No Word from Earth. This is a very funny novel, very short, funny novel about an alien coming to the earth and having all sorts of problems. Music, classical music, or flamenco music. This is Paco de Lucia, one of our most famous guitar players. Of course, flamenco or tango. This is Argentina. I just kind of step aside anyway. Or salsa. Or movies, well, Almodovar is pretty well known in the US, but then there are Argentinian, Mexican, or this last movie, La Sociedad de la Nieve, which was nominated to the Oscars, unfortunately didn't win, but anyway. Or I don't know if you've seen La Casa de Papel. If you haven't, I highly recommend it to you. It's a Spanish series that has been, it's a Netflix shown all over the world. And if you want to learn Spanish and colloquial Spanish, that's a series. Then you have culture in lowercase letters, food, sports, celebrations, way of life, tourism, presents. I wrote a panda bears because that's what the Chinese do. They give panda bears as a soft diplomacy present. Well, you have the tapas there, making your mouth water. This is Little Spain in New York, so if you drop by, you can visit this Mercado Little Spain run by Jose Andres, the famous Spanish cook. Probably heard about him. Sports, we are world champions in women's soccer 2023. Or tennis, with the exiting Nadal and incoming Alcaraz. We have Las Fallas de Valencia, it's a celebration in the east of Spain, or La Tomatina in Buñol. This is tomato or tomato, depending on the dialect, where people throw tomatoes to each other. And apparently they have a lot of fun. I can't imagine myself doing this, but many young people do, and many Americans go to this village in Alicante to do the tomatina, or the procesiones de Semana Santa, or something very Spanish to it's a very typical Spanish family. We like to eat together, and that's something that we do in Spain. We like to eat together, and there's a beautiful Spanish word. Remember the Yagan one, which is sobremesa, and that is after having lunch or having dinner, just stay calm for a while, relax, talking about things, enjoying the food and the conversation afterwards. Schools are very different in Spain, so for those who want to sign up to join the NACA program, they'll see that the schools work in kind of a different way in Spain. Kids are the same everywhere, but the school organization is different, so you have to accommodate to that. Open air cafes, party. I mean, that's something I kind of hate it sometimes, because people party in Spain up until, I don't know, 5, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. They have breakfast there. And of course, for foreigners, this is paradise. This is Disneyland. And something that I find very inspiring, and it's that Spain and the US are the countries ranked #1 in organ donation rates. And I think something we should feel proud about. If you compare it with Portugal, France, etc., I mean, it's something somehow touching. We have no problem in when we die or even living to donate a liver or kidney or whatever. Of course, landscapes, beaches, mountains, rivers. Then you can go to counterculture. I don't have much in that respect. I'm not an expert in counterculture. Of course, there is. And how is this promoted? Well, this is promoted through the embassies, through cultural, education, tourism, and trade offices. We do, part of our job is to do soft diplomacy, cultural institutes, and exchange programs. Because of the time, I'm just gonna mention, well, this is the embassy, Spanish embassy in Washington, DC. This is your home. You're feel free to come over and visit. And these are the countries where we have education office, like the one we have in Washington, DC. These are the countries with the Instituto Cervantes or Cultural Institute as centers. Let's skip that. And because it's just mostly Spain and somehow Mexico, they have Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, UNAM centers in some cities here in the US. And I'm gonna stop here because otherwise you wouldn't have time for questions. So yeah, I'll leave it here, and I'm happy to answer easy questions. Questions you ask us.
Thank you, Dr. Fernández González. Now our remote audience can ask questions online, and we have a couple of microphones here. I have this microphone, I can bring it to you, or you can just come up to one of them.
Thank you so much. This was fascinating, and I have a quick question and then a comment. One is, will we have access to your slides?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. And the other is, I don't know if you're aware that we've had many students from the College of Charleston participate in NOMCAT.
I know.
Okay,
I know.
just wanted to make sure of that, and
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the day when I get to do NOMCAT. But no, I wanted to congratulate you. It's a wonderful program, and so many of our students have thrived in it. So
Thank you so much. And I would like to say that it's a free program because there are companies that charge for similar programs. We do not, cannot, and will not charge any cent for this program. It's absolutely free to register, and then, as I said, you get an allowance. It's not a lot of money, but it's more than anything.
I enjoyed your talk a lot.
Thank you.
So, I want to go back to the BRICA. It was kind of a fascinating, and the idea that there is no empire without language and cultural diffusion, and sort of on that note, what do you see as being the consequences of an isolating sort of policy on the world stage, where someone is pulling back by doing so, they're not reaching out. And by not doing that, they're not diffusing their cultures. Can you think of, like, what would be the unintended consequences, if any, of those things? And can you think of any examples?
I'm not sure if I understood, but the consequence of imperial languages is the death of many small languages. And that's what happened in the US, of course, and in Latin America as well. Not to the same extent, I must say, because the priests, the missionaries that were in Central and South America wrote grammars of those languages and preached on those languages. They thought, if we're waiting for this to learn Spanish, this is not going to work. We want them to be Christians, we want them to be Catholics, so we have to preach in Quechua or in Naya or in Aztec. Then, and that's something that should be mentioned as well, it wasn't the case of Spain that imposed Spanish on, they wanted to, but they couldn't. It was the people like Bolivar or the leaders of the independence in America. Those were the ones that decided that Spanish was going to be the language spoken in Argentina and Peru and Chile and so forth. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, I mean, yeah, it was more the idea of when you cut yourself off, when you pull back from the world, which happens, and we have a nationalistic sort of context where people pull back from that interaction. There are consequences because in pulling back, you're not reaching out. And not reaching out, you're not diffusing, and in not diffusing, you are perhaps undermining your own power base.
Can you give me an example? English, for example, that's pulling back. I mean, English speakers wouldn't learn other languages. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, I would say that without getting too political, recently in the United States, there has been a pullback, right, as far as the posture. And it's very interesting to think somehow, going back to Enrique, who understood, right, how this reaching out And it's sort of, there's this two-way communication, which, you know, it's about fostering mutual understanding, but it goes way beyond that.
I'm not sure that Enrico had that in mind. I think that he was more onto they have to learn Spanish. Because they are, in fact, barbaric peoples. In terms of pulling back, I mean, it's a delicate balance. I mean, you have to promote your language, but you have to give oxygen to those languages in the verge of extinction. I mean, it's not that I'm proud of promoting Spanish throughout the world, but I usually say, learn a foreign language. If it's Spanish, great. If it's Catalan, great. If it's Spanish, wonderful. If it's Aranese, which is a small language spoken in the Pyrenees in Spain, go for it. That's good for you. So it's sort of a delicate balance, I would say.
Thank you.
Other student, I'll take this question from a student and then I'll get to you.
Hello, I'm Taylor. I'm a junior here. And my question for you is, well, I would like you to explain more about your career path and how you found yourself to fill the role of ambassador of Spain.
All right. I'd like to talk about myself very much. I myself am a professor of linguistics at the University of Salamanca. And in Salamanca, we have so many foreign students that to make extra money, I used to teach Spanish as a foreign language there. At some point, I directed the department for Spanish as a foreign language at the University of Salamanca. That meant having around 6,000, 7,000 foreign students throughout the year, especially in the summer, which was a great experience. And we had programs with the Spanish Ministry of Education, bringing American teachers to learn methodology in Spain. And through that, I got to know that there were positions as education attaché, education counselor in different embassies. And I said, well, what do I have to do to be one of them? They told me, well, you have to apply for it. You have to prove that you speak the language, that you know about the American education system, K-12, K-12, university, college. And well, then have some bit of luck. So I applied for it and I was appointed education attaché in Europe. There's the rank is counselors, the top attaché, second layer, and then there are officers, third. So I was education attaché in Europe, which was great. I spent 4 wonderful years in Big Apple. And then I was transferred to London. So I had to learn another language. English spoken in England is a different language for 1 7 years. I had to get used to say might and cheers and all that stuff and drop my R's. I spent 2 wonderful years in London. I was even invited by Queen Elizabeth II with 3,000 or 4,000 other people. So she just invited me. Had 2 wonderful years, and then I went back to the University of Salamanca to teach there. And when I thought everything was over and was about to retire, they told me if I wanted to come to Washington, D.C., to the Embassy of Spain, and be counselor of delegation, and I said yes. Now, this is a very unique path for the Spanish embassy, and I think some European embassies, because if you were going to do the same thing in the US, I guess you would have to join the Foreign Service. You would have to do the different exams and interviews to join the Foreign Service. And then when you join the Foreign Service, you're kind of a Swiss knife diplomat. You may be in Nigeria working in development projects, or maybe in Spain working for cultural programs, or in Peru doing I don't know, politics analysis or whatever. But in our embassy, there are diplomats, there are guys that have joined the Spanish Foreign Office and work there, the ambassador and diplomats. But the different ministries have different counselors, agriculture, police, law, what else is there? Tourism, trade, etc. And these are not trained diplomats. To be the way there are people like me that have a career in agriculture, in trade, in police, in whatever, that speak the language, they know about the culture, and that are appointed as counselors or attachés or whatever. And in terms of the military, it's military personnel that have these positions. So it's a very particular way to end up in Spanish. Sorry.
First of all, thank you for a beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
I have two facts you might find very interesting. As opposed to Simon Bolivar, who was a little bit of an imperialist in terms of the Spanish language, the liberator of Argentina was very different. San Martin had a markedly different linguistic policy, and that's been investigated by an Argentine anthropologist by the name of Carlos Martinez Sarasola. And because of what was San Martin's particular policy and his respect for the native peoples of Argentina, which Bolivar definitely did not show towards the native peoples of the northern part of South America, the Argentine Declaration of Independence was actually emitted in three languages, Spanish, Quechua, and Aymara. And for the brief time that San Martin, who I'm sure you know, grew up more in Spain than Argentina, was in Argentina, there actually was a kind of incipient trilingual policy, which died the minute he was essentially dethroned. Sadly, I just didn't want to add that point about San Martin.
Yeah, there was a time also that there were so many Italian immigrants that there was some sort of debate as if Italian should be the language of Argentina or Spanish. But unfortunately, as you said, well, Quechua and Aymara in Argentina were settled. As opposed to Paraguay, where everyone speaks Spanish and Guarani. It's a sort of diagnostic situation. I mean, Spanish is the official language, the language you speak when you're giving a lecture, and Guarani is the language you speak with your family or so. But for me, it's a bit sad that so many languages have disappeared.
You might be happy to know that in the northwest of Argentina, there is a very active resurgence of Quechua. Not so much on mine. And just one more thing I thought might be interesting to know. I'm a native speaker of a language that is not spoken anymore, which is Judaism.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
which everybody here calls Ladino,
Ladino.
not what it's Judaism. And in Argentina and Brazil, the language has been basically swallowed, well, in Argentina by Spanish, and in Brazil, frankly, also by Spanish going into Portuguese. But in the Sephardic Jewish communities in Brazil and Argentina, there really is a feeling that that's not such a bad thing, because the language would have died, and at least by being swallowed by Spanish, and it's controversial, at least the literature and the music and all of that has survived, even though it survives in Spanish.
Yeah, well, yeah, Ladino, I think they're trying to, in other countries, we're trying to revitalize it somehow, but it's very difficult. And some people even, I believe they keep the keys of the houses in that they had in Spain. That's,
Yeah, that's true.
Your question over there? Oh, okay.
There's already. So, currently we're seeing across the world a serious migration crisis, forced displacement, like a couple of examples, Sudan, Venezuela, and this mass and like movement of people, which is changing these demographics that you talk about. How is that impacting language diversity and the spread of languages, and also the cultivation or loss of languages?
Okay, I'll give you the example of Spain. If you ask someone what languages are spoken in Spain, they would say some of them is Spanish. Some of them would say, well, Spanish, Catalan, Basque, and Galician. Some might even include Aranese, that live in small language spoken in the Pyrenees. And that's it. That's not true. There are languages spoken in Spain, Arabic, Wolof, Bulgarian, Romanian, languages from Africa, languages from Eastern Europe, and dialects from Latin American countries. What's happening is that, unfortunately, and I forgot about China. There are a lot of Chinese migrants in Spain. And unfortunately, what happens in Spain is the same thing that happens here in the US, that after the second and third generation, those languages, I mean, the speakers lose the language. It's like, I have to speak English to accommodate to the country, I have to speak Spanish. And it's, for me, it's really sad, because when you're a little kid, you can absorb as many languages as you have around. There's no limit other than time. But what happens is that they lose their language and part of their heritage. Same thing happens in Germany with Turkish immigrants. Second, third generation, many of them don't speak Turkish anymore, and I find that very sad. And the government policy is not to help those languages. For example, In Spain, if you open up a bilingual English and Spanish school, great, everyone's happy, everyone says wonderful, my kids can learn Spanish and English, great, 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 great. Just if you open a German and Spanish school, same thing. But if you say, why don't we open an Arabic and Spanish school? Oh, no way, the system is dangerous, people can't do that. So that is, I find that very, very sad. They should have the opportunity to have. And then, well, when Ukrainian immigrants came, they tried to do something with the kids from Ukraine. I mean, that was really a big effort from the Spanish government, which is fantastic. But why don't you do the same thing for Moroccan kids or Senegalese kids or Chinese kids? I mean, I know it's difficult, even money, but so yeah, that's something that happened with migration. And here in the US, what I see is that while some communities try to help our languages, like the Japanese community, Korean community, we try to do that. We have a program for children of Spanish citizens in New York and Washington, DC. And then sometimes they ask, why don't you include Latin American kids? And I say, I don't have the means, I don't have the money, I don't have the support. I wish I could, I would love to, but I can't. I don't think the primary education, and I'm very good terms with primary education as much in that respect, for because they don't have the money and they have bigger problems in schools, like lunches or fentanyl or that stuff.
We have time for one more question.
Hi, my name is Catherine Murray-Smith, and my question is about migration that's coming from Latin America. We actually had a student graduate a few years ago who worked with people who were coming, speaking languages that were deemed Spanish speaking, but they were indigenous languages. And I'm wondering if Spain or other Latin American countries are working to help them. When they came to the border, they couldn't speak Spanish and they couldn't speak English. And it was pretty disastrous for them as they and their families were split up. Thank you.
Well, the sad answer is that no, we do nothing. Not only, I mean, that should be more the responsibility of Latin American countries, and sometimes they have this discourse of Spain, the conquerors and assassins and that stuff. And yeah, of course, we did many bad things around the world, but it's, I mean, it's the Mexican government, the Argentinian government who should care about their own population and foster those indigenous languages. And I'm not sure they are so good on that. What we do in Spain, or what we try to do in Spain, is foster our languages there, Catalan, although some controversial as well, Basque, Galician. But in terms of indigenous languages, there are organizations, ONGs that work. I know a friend of mine went to Colombia and worked with the Vietnamese communities there, but there's nothing that is finding there. And I think, I mean, the past is the past, history is history. We did many bad things. I know, I apologize, whatever you need. But it's the actual problem, the current problem that we have now, we should address. And it's these kids that we should take care of. Of course, Spain, but and the other American countries as well. But it's yeah, it's a difficult situation.
Dr. Fernández González, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation and for your questions.